Now we're going to bring on our political panel. Kurt Bardella is a NewsNation political contributor and a Democratic strategist, and Julian Epstein is a Democratic consultant and the former chief counsel to the House Judiciary Committee. Thank you both for being here. So, Kurt, I'll start with you. If this interview tonight goes smoothly, like no major gaffes, no awkward pauses, is that even enough to change the perception at this point? Is there really anything more that can be done?
Well, no, one interview is not going to erase what 450 million people saw live last week. It's going to take a lot more than that to appease, I think, the feelings right now that we're seeing from a number of Democrats and voters. The problem here is a lot of folks watched that debate and came away thinking Joe Biden just isn't up to the task, isn't up for the job. That's not a perception that's just going to go away overnight. It's going to take a string of high energy, passing the bar performances, not just in taped interviews, but in live interviews. Maybe a live press conference might be a good idea. Just really getting him out there as much as possible. And I just don't know when you think about Congress again. Thing about Congress is those members are all about self-interest. They're looking at polling saying that they're going to lose the House in November, that they're going to lose the Senate in November. So they're thinking about their majorities, their careers. And right now, they really believe that with Biden at the top of the ticket, they're not going to take back the House or hold the Senate. And so that's a lot of what's driving their thought right now.
Well, Julian, what's your take on tonight, right? I mean, there's a sense, it seems, from the Democratic Party. Let's see how tonight goes. I mean, right after the debate, the next day, President Biden gave a very powerful speech in front of a group of people. They said, where was that energy the night before? So, are we really expecting much from tonight? Do you think it's just we're expecting the dam to fully break next week? What is your take?
No, this is all performative at this point. This is a Hail Mary pass. The die is cast on this candidacy. The Biden nomination is on its death watch right now. And the simple fact that he can put on some makeup and deliver a teleprompter speech in Wisconsin doesn't change anybody's perception. I think Kurt made a good point. There is a very easy way for the White House to settle this question. And that is to have the president do a nationally televised press conference. And the White House will not do that. I think the White House has known for a long time that the president isn't up for something like that. The news media has known for a long time that the president isn't up for something like that. And I think there's a little bit of a corruption going on here. The fact that so many Democratic officials were trying to tell the public something that was obviously untrue, that the public already knew. The fact that the news media has been so supplicant and has not really challenged the White House narrative on this in a meaningful way, maybe other than this network, I think speaks to a real corruption that's gone on that has been very self-defeating for the Democrats. At the end of the day, there's going to have to be a real reckoning here, not just with the Biden and the senior Biden team, but I think with the whole Democratic establishment that has really forsaken and betrayed the voters here.
And Kurt, that's an interesting point that Julian raised, right? The idea of should we have looked back months ago, a year ago, and say maybe we should have made a change? Because, of course, the question is at this point in time, let's say hypothetically Biden is no longer runs, they replace him. Is it too little, too late for someone to present a meaningful challenge to Donald Trump?
No, absolutely not. I mean, here's the reality. If something were to happen that allows President Biden to exit the stage in a graceful and respectful manner befitting of his current public service, there is plenty of time to look at other alternatives, all of whom I believe would run a much more vigorous, forceful campaign against Donald Trump in the fall. It is early July right now. November's a long ways away. I suspect that a lot of the things that we're talking about right now in July will not be what we're going to be talking about by the time we get to mid-October. And certainly the voters and their attention span, as we have seen time and time again, shift and move and change. One week we're talking about the border. 1 minute we're talking about gun reform. Next minute we're talking about abortion. Then we're talking about the Middle East. That's not going to change between now and November. So there is this window of opportunity between now and the convention in August for Democrats to go and look at different alternatives. There's only a handful of people viably that are going to be in that conversation anyway. A couple of governors, a few senators, and obviously Vice President Kamala Harris. There's plenty of time and runway to get through that, select the best, most competitive ticket, and then go into the fall with the war chest and organization and a message.
Let me throw this over to Julian. Who is that answer? Is it Kamala Harris? Is she the alternative?
I can give you, I don't think so. I don't think enough people take her seriously enough, and I think she was a participant in the cover-up. I can tell you exactly how Democrats can win the election. It's an easy formula. Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania as the presidential nominee and Nikki Haley. Now, you put those two on the ticket, and the Democrats will win by 5, 6, 7 points. No question in my mind on that. The question is whether the Democrats will be smart enough to sort of pivot to the center, pivot to the more bipartisan center where the swing voters are, which is what the public really wants. And in the same way, I think the Democrats cannot depart from the hardcore intersectional progressive left on a lot of their policies and a lot of their politics. They're unable to make this change. And it goes to a deeper cultural problem that I was talking about, which is a growingly intolerance on the left for dissent and differing points of view. And I think if the left had been more open to dissent and differing points of view on the Biden question, it would be more open to a different approach for the presidential nominee, which would really shake things up.
Let's explore
and the party needs to move to the political center. They're underwater on almost every issue.
Let's explore that. So, Kurt, do you think somebody like Nikki Haley could be that option? I mean, you heard Julian say, let's try to change the narrative here from the Democrats.
As VP.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question in my mind that if you were to put any number of actual Republicans, whether it's Nikki Haley, Andrew King Jr., Mitt Romney, come to mind on that ticket, that's a ticket that would succeed. Will it happen? No. There's absolutely zero scenario that Democrats are going to do that. Joe Biden would never agree to step down or not run again without allowing the elevation of people in his administration. Democrat Party base would never go for that, I don't think. And so while I agree that it would win, it's just not going to happen.
And Julian,
but just consider what Kurt said. Let's play that out.
Yeah.
Let me play that out for a quick second. Okay, so I agree with what Kurt said. And what does that tell us about the state of politics? What that tells us is the Democratic Party is more interested in being beholden to the intersectional progressive base than it is in winning. And that's exactly why we got ourselves into the predicament of the Biden fiasco. And it's exactly why I think right now Donald Trump is the presumptive favorite to win in the fall. So it's a question is, do you want to satisfy people who are going to be there no matter what, the progressive left that has pulled the party, in my opinion, way too far left, or do you want to win? And that's the question I think Kurt puts his finger on. And I agree with him that the party won't do that because it's more interested in satisfying the progressive far left base.
And Kurt, let me throw it back to you. Again, how does the party take itself seriously? Because I can't tell you how many conversations I've had where it's about, you know, if there really is their number one concern is about a second Donald Trump presidency, how come this conversation wasn't happening at an earlier date?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote this the other day after the debate for the LA Times, and I said something along the lines of, if we are to believe the urgency that you hear from Democrats really every day since January 6th, that this is the most important election of our lifetime, that democracy is hanging on by a thread, that dictatorial Armageddon awaits us in a Trump 2, you cannot make that case credibly and then turn and tell the voters that the only thing that separates us from that dismal possible reality is this 82-year-old white guy who clearly just doesn't have it like he used to. That is not a credible case to make. I don't believe you when you tell me this is the most important election of my lifetime when you're not putting forward the most competitive ticket that can ensure that the worst case scenario does not happen.
By the way, Julian, do you think it serves Donald Trump to just stay silent and watch what happens from afar? I mean, why even do another debate at that point?
Well, Napoleon once said, you never get in the way of your opponent when he's getting ready to commit suicide. So he's very smart to stand back and let the Democrats sort of dangle in the wind right here. He actually showed, I think, a better temperance during the debate than we've seen in past debates. And he's getting good counsel. He's talking about not being vindictive. He's talking about bringing back sort of the economic success that we had under his administration. I think that's exactly where Trump needs to be. Again, if I were advising Donald Trump, I would say he should go to Nikki Haley. He won't do that, again, for, personal reasons. He doesn't like the attacks she made on him.
Yeah.
But, the way to win this election is to move to the center. For every vote you get in the center, the other side has got to produce 3 votes on their base just to make up for that one vote that switches. And that's where the play is. Elections are always about persuasion.
If I were Joe Biden,
Yeah.
If I were Joe Biden and I were going to get out of this race, what I would do is wait for the convention, for the Republican convention, wait till Donald Trump names his VP, and on the night that Donald Trump gives his acceptance speech, at 9 o'clock that night, announce I'm not running.
Well, you guys are playing a very interesting chess game, and it's an unpredictable chess game because we're not exactly sure how it's going to work. Kurt Bardella, Julian Epstein, thank you so much for your perspective. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Justin.
All right, coming up.